So, two-step equations shouldn't be anything difficult. We should know how to solve them. If not, well, we got lots more problems than I thought. Goal is to solve for y. Judah, what do I need to move first in order to solve for y? What do I need to move in order to get y by itself? The what?
3.
The 3. How do I move a positive 3?
Subtract itself. Oh.
Go ahead.
Subtract itself.
Yeah, so I'm subtracting 3 from both sides. In this case, I can do 9 minus 3 because they are like terms. 9 minus 3 is 6. 3 minus 3 is gone, that's 0. Bring down a negative 4y. I'm really hoping that we're paying attention because you need to know how to solve two-step equations in order to do any of this. From here, I divide by negative 4 on both sides to everything. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1y. Now, I have a fraction. Is a positive divided by a negative, it's going to be a negative. 6 and 4 are both even, which means they're divisible by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that leaves me y equals negative 3/2. Questions on that? How did I get what?
3/2.
So they're both even, which means that they can both be divided by the number 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. These are equivalent fractions.
Is that the same thing as like negative 1.5?
If you give me a decimal, it will not be marked correct.
Okay.
Okay? And that will be clearly stated on a quiz or test.
Wait, if we do give you a decimal?
Yeah, it will not be marked correct. I want it as a simplified fraction. And the directions would say simplified
Like
fraction.
every time it's a.
The directions will say, if it's going to be a fraction, I'll say, make sure that your answer is as a simplified fraction. Okay? But fractions for our next portion, what we're going to be doing, is important. I want them as fractions. Okay? So here, what do we need to do in order to get y by itself? Go ahead, Christian.
You add 2 to each side.
Add 2 to both sides. Very good. Once again, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 3y drops down. I can add 4 in the 2. That gives me 6. I divide by negative 3. That gives me y equals negative 2. Okay? Still pretty easy. Yep? Nothing hard about this. Last but not least, what do we do here?
Add 5 to each side.
Very good. Again, I can actually add 23 and 5. Those are like terms, gives me 28. 7y comes straight down. Divide both individual things by 7. Y equals 4. What questions do we have there?
So quiet here.
Okay. We're going to do one more example. But we are in 11, 18, 24, so this is where your notes should start. We are doing literal equations. Solve for y. Okay, I'm going to try not to confuse you. But this did confuse some in my first class. Three plus 3y equals 12. And I'm going to write the same exact thing twice. Once again, we're solving a two-step equation. Okay? I subtract 3 from both sides. This time, we know 3 minus 3 is 0. Leaves me 3y equals 12 minus 3. Instead of actually doing it, I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay? How do I get y by itself?
You got rid of that. What you do?
Right, I subtracted it to the other side. But how do I get rid of this 3? 3y.
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3. What am I going to divide on this side by 3?
12.
So I heard 12 and 3.
Oh, negative 3.
I'm dividing it all. I'm going to divide this by 3 and this by 3. I divide each individual term by 3. This is what I want you to get your mind wrapped around. I'm dividing each individual term by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That gives me y. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 1. So it's 4 minus 1, which is 3. Okay? I didn't really do 12 minus 3. I just wrote it out differently. Would we get the same answer if we actually did it? Well, let's see. I subtract 3 from both sides. That gives me 3y equals 9. I divide by 3. Y equals 3. So we're getting the same answer. But I want you to see that you can divide each individual term on the other side instead of dividing the whole thing. This is going to come in handy. Okay? Because we're going to be doing that over and over and over and over and over. There are 2 things in algebra that are must-haves. You need to know how to solve equations. You need to know how to graph. Today is the starting of graphing. Even though we're not going to talk about graphing at all today, and we're not going to talk about graphing until January, if you can't do what we do today, you're going to struggle. I don't want to say you're going to fail, but you're going to struggle greatly. Okay. So literal equations are one of my least favorite things to teach. Truly and honestly, I hate teaching them. Because it's nothing but variables. So, what is the formula for a rectangle for area? How do we find the area of a rectangle? What times what?
Length times width.
Yeah. The area of a rectangle is length times width. L times W. You've all seen that before. If I say solve for L. Uh-oh. Now we're moving variables. Now listen, this is an equation. The rules for equations do not change. The rules for equations do not change. So, I'm trying to get L by itself. On this side, I have L times a W. What's the inverse of times?
Division.
Divide. What am I going to divide? If I want L by itself, what am I going to divide by? What do I need to move? If L needs to be there, what doesn't?
The W.
Oh, so we divide by W on that side. We divide by W on this side. W divided by W is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. That leaves me L equals A divided by W. Man, Mr. H, look at that. A lot of letters, confusing as heck. Would you agree? This isn't exactly easy. And there are a lot of literal equations where you might have something that looks like this. Where you've got 1/2 3x plus 7y equals 4z minus 2. And it might say, solve for y. It might say that. Anybody want to take a crack at that? No, right? Like, I mean, and I was questioned in my other class. They're like, can you solve that? Yes, I can solve that for y. And it takes a couple steps. You multiply by 2, you multiply by 2. That's gone. That leaves me 3x plus 7y equals 8z minus 4. Then I'm subtracting 3x from both sides. That leaves me 7y equals 8z minus 4 minus 3x. Divide everything by 7, and that gives me y equals 8z minus 4 minus 3x divided by 7. So we can solve for y. But is that what's going to be necessary for our class and for algebra? No. Okay? But literal equations is solving for a variable. I wanted to show you a couple so that if you're like, well, are literal equations only what we're doing? No. Okay? In science, there's 2 different temperatures, Fahrenheit and Celsius. There's an equation to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit and Fahrenheit to Celsius, right? Literal equations will help you solve for one or the other. Now, let's talk about what we're going to be doing. Oh, are you copying that?
Yeah, it's fine.
No, that's good. So all we're doing today for every problem is we are solving for y. This is where our notes start coming in hot right now. 3x plus 3y equals 18. Is this too loud? Is it right on? Okay, so if I'm trying to get y by itself, I still have my balance point, and I'm going to show you how easy this is. Ready? If I erase that x, what would I do to start getting y by itself?
You subtract 3 to both sides.
Right? That's all we would do. But there's a problem. This time we have a 3x. Equations don't change just because we have variables. So instead of subtracting 3, we subtract 3x from both sides. 3x minus 3x is going to be what?
0.
So it's gone. 3y drops down equals. Now, this is the only tricky part. You don't have to understand it today, okay? Hopefully I've built up enough trust with y'all that when I say it's going to matter later, don't worry about it now, that you'll trust me on that. See this term? Can I combine an 18 and a 3x?
No.
Absolutely not. We can't combine our friends with our x's. I want my x term closest to the equal sign. That x term is negative 3x. What type of 18 is it?
Plus 18.
So I put plus 18. Okay, we almost have y by itself. Violet, what do we need to do to get y by itself?
Divide.
5.
3.
And I'm going to divide each individual thing by 3. I divide by 3. I divide by 3. That's the key. Divide everything by that number. 3 divided by 3 is 1y. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1x. 18 divided by 3 is positive 6. Okay, that's only one example. It gets easier the more that we do this. What questions we have so far? Fractions are going to happen. Learn to love. I'm going to leave that there. Learn to love fractions. Learn to love fractions. So here we go. Here's number 2. We're solving for y again. 5x minus 10y equals 50. The rules do not change. The rules do not change. The goal is to get the y by itself. Okay? Find the balance point. We need to move what term first?
5x.
The 5x. Brianna, is it positive or negative 5x? What is it there? It's positive. So how do we move the positive 5x? Minus, right, Harlow? So we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. That's gone. Negative 10y. Can I combine a 50 and a negative 5x?
No.
No, they are not like terms. How would I write this right side out?
Negative 5x plus 50.
Very good. So I circle that 5x term. It's negative 5x plus 50. Everybody still with me? I want the x closest to the equal sign. Again, there is a reason. We will learn it later. It's really slope-intercept form. Again, it's down the road. Just know that I'm cheating, getting you to solve for y without you knowing why. Okay? I like this song. Okay, to finish this off, what do we have to do?
Divide negative 10 to the negative 5x to 50.
Yeah, divide everything by negative 10. Your calculators will help with this. Negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1y. Get your calculator to do negative 5 divided by 10. Well, it's actually negative 5 divided by negative 10. So you're going to get a decimal. How do you change that decimal in the calculator?
Second PRB.
Second PRB or second table. What do we get?
1/2.
Positive 1/2.
Yes.
Right? positive 1/2 x. You can't lose the x. Then 50 divided by negative 10?
-5.
Minus 5. Is this hard? I mean, really, we're moving the x, dividing by the y. Does it get a little trickier? Yes, but today is the easy day. I just want to start off with the basics. Okay, a little bit trickier. Let's see if you can get started on your own. I'm not asking you to finish it. Let's just see if you can start this one on your own. Love what you do, really. I think that's a great goal. Okay, so somebody other than Christian. What do we do first?
Get rid of the 7.
Okay, how do we do that?
Subtract 7 from both sides.
So subtract 7 from both sides? Yes?
7x.
Ah, now, I know that I'm being kind of a jerk to Judah. What's new, right? But
So,
making sure that you have that x is going to be crucial. I've done this for 18 years. Every previous year, for all 17 years that I've done this, I've seen people put -7 and then combine like terms and like, why am I wrong? Because we're not moving a 7, we're moving the 7x. Okay? Make sure that you have that. So that's 0, -6y equals. What are we going to have on this side? No. Go ahead.
-7.
-7.
X.
Then what?
Plus 44.
Plus what? Not plus 44.
Negative.
Minus 44. Okay. So now this is where it gets a little bit trickier. So here we go. So now we have a -6y. So I'm dividing each individual thing by -6. Y equals. And this is where, I'm not going to lie, it's a little tricky. Because your calculator doesn't do everything. You have to know a little bit about it. A negative divided by a negative is?
Positive.
So your first number better be positive. Can I simplify 7 divided by 6? Does anything go both into 7 and 6?
I
No.
don't think so.
So that is already a simplified fraction. Sorry. Negative divided by a negative is positive. What goes into both of those? If they're both even, what can we, oh, we can divide them by 2. So in your calculator, 44 divided by 2.
22.
6 divided by 2.
3. 3.
That's a simplified fraction. Okay? What questions do we have? Pretty easy, right? Okay. you have no homework, but you are going to do these 3 problems and we're going to go over these before you leave today. So you're solving for y for all of them. Okay, so that's what you're doing right now. Are there any questions?